Hey martial arts fans, welcome to Podcast, the podcast that brings you the latest news from the world of martial arts. We are here to discuss what's happening in the dojo, the ring, and beyond. From competition results to new training techniques, we've got you covered and we want to hear from you. If you have any martial arts news to share, a story to tell, or a question you would like us to answer, visit our website at https://budocast.com or reach out on our social media platforms. And now, let's get into the news.
And I have to say, just looking at the slate of sources we have for this deep dive today, news almost feels like an understatement.
Yeah.
It really feels more like we are reporting on a seismic shift.
It does.
Like the ground is actually moving under our feet a little bit this week.
It really is. You know, usually when we sit down to do this deep dive, we are expecting to talk about who won the pans or maybe a new leg lock entry that everyone's obsessing over right now.
Right, exactly.
But this week, the source material is heavy.
Yeah.
Very heavy.
It is.
We are looking at what might be the most significant internal crisis the sport of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has seen in a decade. Maybe longer, honestly.
Absolutely. We aren't just talking about online gossip here or a little spat between rivals. We are talking about a full-on reckoning. And it centers on one of the absolute pillars of the sport, which is Atos Jiu-Jitsu.
Right. And for anyone listening who might be newer to the sport or just tuning in, let's kind of set the stage on what Atos actually is.
Yeah, we should do that.
Because this isn't just a gym down the street. The headquarters in San Diego is, it's like the Real Madrid or the New York Yankees of BJJ.
That is a perfect comparison.
It is quite literally a factory for world champions.
Led by Andre Galvão, who is a legend in his own right.
A total legend.
This is a team that has completely dominated the competition scene for years now. But the news coming out of that camp this week, based on our sources, describes it as a rapidly unraveling environment. Yeah. And when you read the details, unraveling really feels like the right word. It feels like the thread is being pulled and the whole sweater is just coming apart.
So let's get into the specifics of what we know from the source material. And I want to be clear right off the bat because our sources highlight this too.
Right.
We have not seen an official statement from Atos leadership yet.
Nothing official.
There is no press release.
Yeah.
There is no legal filing that has been made public. What we are seeing is an explosive reaction from the community itself.
Exactly. The epicenter of this information flow has been the online forums, specifically Reddit, and the r/BJ drama subreddit.
Yeah, the subreddit.
Now, I know some people roll their eyes at Reddit. They think it's just trolls and noise.
Sure.
But in a niche community like jiu-jitsu, where the mainstream sports media doesn't really cover us, these forums are often the canary in the coal mine. They are where the smoke appears first.
And there is a lot of smoke right now. The users who are claiming direct knowledge, and we will get to why we think these claims have serious weight in a minute, they're describing a situation that is utterly chaotic.
The allegations are incredibly serious.
Very.
We are looking at claims of sexual harassment and, to quote the source material directly, potentially worse.
Potentially worse.
Yeah. And this isn't an isolated incident involving a low-level student either. The reports state that these allegations involve several big-named women from the gym.
That phrase, potentially worse, is chilling.
It really is.
And the fact that it involves high-profile women in the sport makes it even more volatile.
Yeah.
But as you said, we have to be careful. There are no verified legal findings yet.
Right. We aren't judges or juries here. We have to impartially report what the sources are saying.
Exactly. However, the expert analysis in our source material points out that the scale and consistency of these claims is what is really causing the alarm.
Yes.
It's not one person shouting, it's a chorus.
That's the key takeaway. If it was one anonymous account, you could dismiss it. But you have users identifying as parents of students there.
Yeah, the parents.
There was one quote in the sources that really hit me hard. A parent wrote, "My children's idol has ruined his whole empire." In all caps.
Ruined his whole empire. That is a heavy, heavy statement.
It is. And that parent went on to describe the emotional fallout. They said their heart hurts that they can't sleep. They mentioned that the other professors at the gym are broken and trying to decide their next move.
Wow.
It paints a picture of a community in total shock. You know, we always talk about BJJ academies as families. Join the team, join the family.
Like, it's a huge marketing thing.
When a betrayal happens in that environment, it's not just a business transaction gone wrong. It's a violation of trust.
And usually with these internet rumors, you wait for proof.
Yeah.
You wait for the smoking gun before taking it seriously. But in this case, the proof seems to be in the departures. The exits are the smoking gun, aren't they?
Precisely. This is the verifiable part of the story. If this were just baseless slander, you would expect the team to circle the wagons.
Yeah, defend the flag.
You'd expect everyone to stay put and defend their instructor. But instead, we are seeing a mass exodus of elite talent.
Let's look at the specific names provided in the source material, because these aren't just casual hobbyists. These are the franchise players.
First on the list is Andy Murasaki.
That's huge.
This is a young guy who is arguably the future of the lightweight division. He has been a distinct product of the Atos system from the ground up. For him to leave, that's massive.
It really is. And then you have Rafaela Guedes,
who is a reigning world champion.
Exactly. She is one of the top female competitors on the planet right now.
Yeah.
If she is walking out the door, she is taking a massive amount of prestige and legitimacy with her.
Not to mention Rafael Silveira and Alexa Hersey. These are people whose careers literally depend on having the best training partners in the world. They do not leave a room like Atos unless the environment has become completely untenable.
But it's not just the athletes. This is the part that really signaled to me that the system itself is breaking down. The staff is leaving.
That is a crucial detail in the sources. The reports indicate that 2 of the main women coaches, the professores, have left. But even more telling, the front desk receptionists are leaving.
The front desk?
Yes, one report mentions a receptionist who is actually related to Galvão has left. When the front office clears out, when the people who run the business and manage the memberships are quitting alongside the star athletes, that signals a systemic collapse.
Yeah.
That tells you the building is on fire.
It really does. And we actually have some public confirmation from former competitors. It's not just people quietly disappearing into the night.
Right.
Rose Miller, who is a former competitor for the team, took very specific, very public action.
She did. She didn't just fade away. She scrubbed the association completely. She removed Atos from her bio. She deleted her promotion post, and she canceled her membership.
Wow.
But her statement is what we really need to analyze here.
What did she say in the statement?
She said, "I am standing with the girls. All my energy is currently dedicated making safe spaces for the girls and women."
Standing with the girls. That phrase does a lot of work right there.
It does. It essentially validates the nature of the allegations without naming any specific names. It implies a collective victimhood.
Right.
It suggests that there isn't just a general problem, but that there are specific victims who need support. And she noted she had only trained there once in the last 2 weeks as this info started surfacing. She voted with her feet, and then she used her voice.
And that voice is rippling out across the sport. It's not just contained to San Diego anymore. We are seeing figures from completely different teams looking at this and saying, we have to talk about this.
That is the reckoning aspect the sources mention. Nicole Matthews, who runs Method Jiu-Jitsu, so she's an outsider, she has no skin in the Atos game specifically, she released a very powerful statement.
I read that.
She is actually stepping back from competition entirely to focus on leadership because of this crisis.
Her statement was incredibly blunt. I have the quote here. She said, "Morals and ethics aren't real if you pick them only when convenient."
That is a direct challenge to the culture of the entire sport. She's pointing out that for a long time, we have just looked the other way.
We really have.
If a guy is a world champion, we ignore his behavior. If a team wins the team trophy, we don't ask how they actually treat their students behind closed doors. Matthews is saying no more. She said we need strong, powerful female leadership.
And looking at the situation at Atos, it's hard to argue with her. The current structures clearly failed to protect these women.
Nick Sal's chimed in, too. He's a black belt under Mikey Musumeci.
Right. And Sal's is usually very quiet, very focused on technique in his own game.
Yeah, but he called this horrific and heinous, and his call to action was about the bystander effect. He explicitly said, remaining silent and doing nothing, IS violence.
It is a heavy, heavy charge. It basically says to the listener, if you know and you don't speak up, you are complicit. It feels like the era of shut up and train is finally coming to an end.
It really does.
People are realizing that the culture on the mats matters just as much as the technique being taught.
And that brings us to the broader leadership response, because when the biggest team in the world stumbles, the rest of the jiu-jitsu world has to react. And we saw a major statement from the Gracie family, specifically Rener and Ryron Gracie.
Yeah, this was super interesting. They released a public statement addressing the crisis, and they went right back to the roots of the art.
They did. They started with their grandfather, Helio Gracie's final request.
Which was?
Keep making jiu-jitsu available to those who need it most. It's a very powerful narrative hook. It frames the current crisis not just as a legal issue or a PR nightmare, but as a fundamental betrayal of the art's founding mission.
Right, because if the dojo isn't safe, then the art isn't actually available. It's being gatekept by fear and abuse.
Exactly. And they didn't shy away from the scope of this. They openly acknowledged that this is a reckoning for the community. But what struck me was that they pointed out this isn't just an Atos problem.
Yeah. The source material lists a whole laundry list of issues at other major teams right now.
That is a crucial piece of context for everyone listening. The Gracies noted that recent revelations have impacted nearly every prominent team. They mentioned Checkmat, where Leo Vieira is reportedly distancing himself from his own brother due to internal issues.
Oh, wow.
They mentioned New Wave, where there are allegations involving a fugitive connected to assaults. They mentioned B Team suspending Jay Rodriguez.
And we can't forget the headline about Craig Jones.
Right. The source explicitly mentions Craig Jones has claimed Isaac Mitchell allegedly assaulted more than 12 women. When you put all of these together, Atos, Checkmat, New Wave B Team, you quickly realize this isn't a bad apple situation. It's an orchard problem. The whole ecosystem is showing signs of serious rot.
An orchard problem. That is a terrifying way to put it, but it seems accurate based on these sources. However, we have to be completely fair here and report all sides. The Gracies themselves, Rener and Ryron, they aren't exactly sitting in a glass house, are they?
No, they aren't.
The sources point out that there is significant criticism directed at them as well.
They aren't immune to the blowback. And to be fair to the source material, it does highlight that the Gracies acknowledge facing painful realizations themselves, but the specific allegations against them are significant.
What are they?
Evandro Nunes, a former instructor of theirs, has accused the Gracie organization of highly unethical business practices.
Shame rituals was the exact phrase that jumped out at me from the report.
Yes, shame rituals. That sounds completely archaic, doesn't it?
It sounds like a cult.
It implies a culture of humiliation used for control. Nunes also alleged he was pressured into very uncomfortable arrangements involving Ryron and Victoria Gracie morally troubling social events.
Yikes.
And Ryron has made headlines before for unconventional relationships while married, so when listeners read their statement about earning trust daily, many of them are reading it with a heavy dose of skepticism.
It adds a massive layer of complexity. You have these leaders calling for higher standards while simultaneously fending off accusations that they've violated those exact same standards. It's messy.
It is incredibly messy, but I think we have to separate the message from the messenger here. The core argument in their statement is logically valid.
Which is?
They argue that leadership means choosing what is right over what is comfortable, and they explicitly say that instructors need to not just set standards, but actually enforce them.
Right, enforce them.
That is the missing link in all of this. You can have a code of conduct poster on the wall, but if you let your star athlete break it because he wins gold medals, the code is worthless.
Values only matter when they are lived. That's the quote from the sources. It's a really good sentiment. Whether the community buys it coming from them right now, that remains to be seen. But the conversation has certainly started.
And that's the first vital step. For a long time, these things were just whispered in locker rooms. Now they are being shouted on the internet and in official public statements. That change in volume is the only way structural change actually happens.
We are going to keep a very close watch on this story as it develops because I have a feeling we are just seeing the tip of the iceberg here. But for now, we're going to take a quick break to thank our sponsor, Elite Sports, who are the leaders in premium quality fightwear for BJJ and MMA. Visit them at elitesports.com. You find a link in the show notes.
We'll be right back.
And we are back. Okay, we're shifting gears now. We're leaving the BJJ mats. Well, sort of, because there's plenty of grappling involved and stepping into the UFC octagon. We have a massive fight coming up this Saturday on Paramount+.
Sean Strickland versus Anthony Hernandez.
This fight, man, the buildup has been intense. And not just in the typical, I'm going to knock you out way. It's gotten deeply personal, highly political, and frankly, pretty ugly.
It really has. You know, usually the trash talk in MMA is about skills. Your cardio is bad or you have no chin.
Yeah, basic stuff.
But with Sean Strickland involved, it almost always veers into culture war territory. And this time, it is specifically targeted at Hernandez's heritage.
Let's unpack the beef here based on the sources. Where did this actually start?
It really escalated with a social media post from Strickland. He posted an image of himself dressed as an ICE agent, immigration and customs enforcement, And he had Hernandez, who is Mexican-American, edited to look like he was wearing a poncho and a sombrero.
Wow. I mean, that's not subtle at all. That is a sledgehammer of a stereotype.
It is a direct racist caricature, and Hernandez saw it, obviously. His initial reaction was interesting, though. He went on a podcast and said, honestly, I laughed when I seen that start, see?
You tried to play it off?
He tried to brush it off, playing the cool guy, saying if that's the best you got. But then he pivoted pretty hard.
The mask slipped a little bit.
It did. He admitted it's messed up and that he doesn't like seeing his people disrespected like that. And this is where the context of Hernandez's career really matters. The source material notes that he has actually had serious issues with the UFC regarding his heritage in the past.
Right, I saw this in the notes. He went on Ariel Helwani's show and said the UFC almost didn't let him walk out representing Mexico.
Yes, exactly. They demanded proof of residency. Now, Hernandez was born in California, but he takes immense pride in his Mexican heritage. The UFC usually loves national pride. They market USA versus Brazil or UK versus the world all the time.
All the time, yeah.
But for Hernandez, he felt like he had to jump through massive hoops just to fly his own flag.
So imagine the mindset for him going into this. You have to fight the promotion just to represent your people, and then your opponent comes out dressed as an ICE agent to mock that exact same identity.
It's a total pressure cooker, and Hernandez is essentially saying as much. His quote for Saturday is that he plans to torturing him for 25 minutes.
Torture him?
He doesn't just want to win, he wants to make Strickland pay. He said he hopes Strickland keeps that same online energy when they are actually locked in the cage.
And Strickland is Strickland. He's not backing down. The source notes he's backed Donald Trump, and he's been throwing around slurs recently, too.
Yes. The reports mention he called Bad Bunny, the Puerto Rican superstar, a gay slur right after the Super Bowl. So Strickland is actively leaning into this highly offensive persona.
Yeah.
He knows it gets attention. He knows it riles people up and gets clicks. It's a marketing strategy, but it's a strategy built on genuine toxicity.
The big question is, does it distract him or does it fuel him? Because if his press conference performance is any indication, he's definitely distracted by something. The sources described his media day appearance as a bizarre train wreck.
Train wreck is the perfect description. I mean, picture this. You are there to promote a main event fight. You have the microphone. And instead of talking about Hernandez Stemes, Strickland spends a huge chunk of time ranting about the TV show Halo.
Halo? Like the Xbox video game show. What does that have to do with cage fighting?
Absolutely nothing. But Paramount Plus broadcasts the UFC fights now, and they also produce the Halo series. Strickland went on an absolute tear, attacking the network that employs him, claiming they ruin Halo by making it gay and not filling it with strong women.
That is certainly a choice for a fight promotion.
He actually tweeted later that he should be hired as a director so he could ensure there are no strong women and to not make it gay. It's this weird obsession with culture war topics that has absolutely nothing to do with the task at hand.
But he didn't stop at video games. He went full Stone Age, that's what the source called it, on women's sports in general, didn't he?
This was the part that really generated headlines, and rightfully so. A reporter asked him about the upcoming Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano fight, which we will get to in a minute. And Strickland's response was that nobody gives a F word about women's sports.
Unless
they're half naked or covered in oil. He literally suggested they put some oil on it and use dollar bills. It was incredibly demeaning. He basically reduced world-class martial artists to objects for his own amusement.
He didn't just insult the sport. He basically insulted the role of women in society entirely.
He did. He went on a rant about how women cook and clean and that society has empowered them too much to ruin society. And this is the part where you really have to question the logic. He made a comment about prison.
Oh, right. The prison comment. Explain that to the listeners.
He said the reason he didn't go to prison was that he didn't want to be surrounded by men, and there are no women in prison.
Wait, his logic for avoiding prison wasn't, the law or morality. It was the lack of women.
Apparently. It's a window into a worldview that is, frankly, archaic. But here is the kicker. He later claimed on social media that he was rage-baited by the reporter.
Rage-baited. That's a very convenient excuse. I said all these horrible things, but it's your fault for asking me a standard question.
Exactly. It's the classic deflection defense. He says something wildly offensive, and if the backlash gets too hot, he claims he was baited or just joking. But look, this adds a massive amount of heat to the fight on Saturday.
It really does.
You've got Hernandez wanting to torture him for the racist comments, and you've got Strickland spiraling into these misogynistic rants. It's going to be a very charged atmosphere in that arena.
It certainly will be. Strickland thrives in chaos, but Hernandez seems laser-focused. It'll be interesting to see if discipline beats noise on Saturday. But before we move on, we need to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Lotus, by Open Black Belt. Manage your dojo's attendance member detail and payments with Lotus. Visit them at openblackbelt.com. You can find a link in the show notes.
Okay, let's get right back to it.
So Strickland mentioned a fight that he thinks nobody cares about, but I think he's completely wrong. I think a lot of people care about this. We are talking about the return of two absolute legends, Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano.
It is officially confirmed for May 16th, 2026.
The date is officially set. The venue is the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, California, and it's streaming live on Netflix. This is huge news.
It is huge, but it's also a bit shocking. I mean, let's look at the context here. This is a fight that people talked about a decade ago. It feels like a time capsule has just been opened up.
Right. It feels like we stepped into a DeLorean and went back in time.
It really does. Ronda Rousey is 39 years old. Gina Carano is turning 44. Rousey hasn't fought in MMA since 2016, that brutal loss to Amanda Nunes, where she really looked like she was done with the sport forever.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
In Carano, she hasn't fought since 2009. That is an absolute lifetime in combat sports years.
2009, that was the loss to Chris Cyborg in Strikeforce. I mean, think about that. iPhones barely existed. Barack Obama was in his first year of office.
Exactly. So the reaction in MMA world has been very mixed. Some people are calling it surreal. Others are saying it's just so random. But there is also this undeniable sense of historical significance. These two are the pioneers. Carano was the first female fighter to really break into the mainstream consciousness. She was the face of women's MMA before the UFC even had a women's division.
Right.
And then Rousey took that torch and literally kicked down the door to the UFC.
The what-if factor here is so strong. Why didn't this happen sooner? Why are we waiting until 2026 to see this?
Timing was always the enemy. In the Strikeforce era, just as Rousey was coming up and making waves, Carano was already leaving. They were ships passing in the night. Carano went off to Hollywood to make movies, and Rousey went to the UFC to become a superstar.
But there was a moment in the UFC era where it almost happened, right? The famous $1 million meeting.
Yes. This is a great story from the sources. Gina Carano recounted this in an interview. She met with Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta, the old owners of the UFC. They offered her $1 million to fight Rousey.
$1 million back then was serious money. It was massive main event money.
Huge money. And Carano was actually interested, but she had one very specific request. She hadn't fought in 5 years at that point. She asked for 6 months of absolute silence.
Silence.
She said, I need time to find a camp, get back in shape, and build a team without the media breathing down my neck.
That seems entirely reasonable.
Yeah.
Give me 6 months to get ready, then we announce it to the world.
Completely reasonable. But this is Dana White we were talking about. According to Carano, the very next day, Dana is out in the press talking about signing her.
Unbelievable.
He starts applying pressure publicly, trying to hype the fight before the ink is even dry on a contract.
He leaked it to force her hand.
Exactly. He tried to pressure her into signing by creating this massive media hype. Carano felt completely disrespected. She felt like she was being bullied by the promoter. She texted him saying that's not what we discussed. And Dana sent a nasty text back, essentially saying she was joking them around. And that was it. The fight died right there in that text exchange.
Because of ego and pressure. It's such a shame for the fans. We could have seen them in their prime. Now we are basically seeing a nostalgia fight.
It is a nostalgia fight, but you know what? Better late than never. For fans who remember that era, seeing them square off, even at 39 and 44, is going to be a moment. It's spectacle over sport at this point, but it's going to be a fascinating spectacle. And honestly, watching Netflix get into the live fight game is a massive story in itself.
Absolutely. I'll be watching, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But speaking of age and longevity, watching Rousey and Carano return makes you think about the physical toll this sport takes on the human body. And that brings us to our final segment for this deep dive.
Yes. For the listener out there who isn't a world champion, who is just a regular person trying to train, all this talk of injuries and aging bodies might be a little discouraging. But our sources introduced a concept called sloth jiu-jitsu.
I love the name. Sloth jiu-jitsu. It sounds lazy at first, but I have a feeling it's actually highly strategic, right?
It is very strategic. The target audience here is the grappler over 35. You know, the person who goes to class after a long day of work and just gets smashed by the 22-year-old collegiate wrestler who has infinite cardio and moves like a rabbit on espresso.
We've all been there, man. You feel like you're just surviving Not even training. You spend the whole 5-minute round just trying to keep your knees attached to your legs.
Exactly. The sloth philosophy is about entirely flipping the script on those young guys. It asks a fundamental question: what if slowing down was actually the fastest way to win?
So it's about mechanical efficiency.
It's about sustainable strength. It's about not wrecking your joints trying to explode out of every single bad position. It's a blueprint for true longevity training for 25 plus years. The idea is to use deadweight heavy pressure and precise timing rather than speed and explosive power. You essentially become the sloth, slow, heavy, and undeniable.
It reminds me of the classic old man strength concept. You grab a wrist and just do not let go. You clamp down and make them carry you.
Precisely. It's all about connection. Instead of scrambling wildly when the young guy moves, you anchor him. You make him carry your weight. You make him work twice as hard just to move an inch. It completely preserves your energy bar while rapidly draining theirs.
And this is so relevant to the news right now because of another item we saw on the ticker this week. Gordon Ryan.
The king, or, well, I guess the former king now.
He announced his retirement. And the reason wasn't that he lost a match or got submitted. It was ongoing health struggles.
Yeah, his stomach issues, his immune system problems. He's been battling that very publicly for years. Gordon Ryan is arguably the greatest no-gi grappler of all time. His technique is flawless. But even he hit a physical wall. His body simply couldn't keep up with the grueling demands of professional competition anymore.
It's a very sobering lesson for anyone who trains.
It is. If the greatest athlete on earth has to bow out because of health limits, what does that mean for the average hobbyist listening to this? It means you have to prioritize preservation above all else. You can't train like you're 20 forever. Whether you adopt the sloth method or just modify your existing game, the ultimate goal should be to stay on the mats.
Longevity is the ultimate black belt.
That's a fantastic way to put it. We want to be training when we're 60, not sitting on the couch talking about how we used to train back in the day.
Well said. There's a whole lot to digest from this deep dive today, from the serious cultural shifts happening in BJJ with the Atos and Gracie news to the wild antics of Sean Strickland and the historic return of the queens of MMA.
It's a great reminder that martial arts is a living, breathing world. It's messy, it's exciting, and it's constantly evolving.
That's it for this episode. Thanks for joining us to talk about the latest in martial arts. We will be back with other news, stories, and insights. Until then, remember to train hard and stay humble. If you have any news you would like to share, reach out to us, budocast.com.